Welcome to the Community Connections Podcast. As President and CEO of Bank of Idaho, equal housing lender, member FDIC, I am fascinated with authentic and real conversations, and my goal is to establish long-term relationships. Community Connections is an opportunity for me to connect with local business owners and leaders to hear their stories. Here at Bank of Idaho, people bank with people. Joining us today is Rick Aman, President of the College of Eastern Idaho. Dr. Rick Aman was selected as the inaugural President of College of Eastern Idaho in December 2017 by the newly appointed Board of Trustees. Well, Rick Aman, thank you so much for joining me today and for taking your time.
Well, Jeff, what a pleasure to be here. I always enjoy our conversation,
Well,
so what a privilege to be invited.
My favorite thing is our friendship.
Absolutely.
It's the best part.
Yeah, it
and
is.
you and I came to this community about the same
We
day.
were within months of the same time, and look how successful you are.
Oh, geez.
That is wonderful.
Well, we've been a good team.
We
because
have.
we both were kind of lonely at the beginning.
Yeah.
We
We both got dropped into a community that we hadn't been acquainted with, and this is a good community to be in, and we've made friends quickly and great associates.
It's so fun to see the success that you've had here, and we're going to get into that certainly. But what I want to, everybody knows you're the president of the College of Eastern Idaho. That's easy. But what most people don't know is how you got here. It's not always been a straight line.
Nobody you've talked to has been on a straight line. I'll predict that.
Yes, well, that's why they're sitting in that chair.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, otherwise it's not very interesting.
No, it's not. No.
So you served our country.
I did.
And I love that, and thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
And tell me where you grew up.
Well, I grew up in a small farming community, Mount Angel, Oregon, so the Willamette Valley by Salem. Got a degree in education, but the purpose of a degree was to get into the Air Force, ROTC, and flew active duty as a pilot for 6 years.
How many hours?
Well, I ended my career with 21 years and about 5,000 flight hours.
Wow.
So a lot.
Yes.
A lot of flight hours.
Yeah, what kind of missions were you flying?
Most would be search and rescue, so C-130s.
Oh,
so,
really?
It's a combat rescue mission, but in Oregon, a lot of times people would get stuck on Mount Hood, and planes would crash in bad weather, those kind of things. So it had a civilian counterpart to combat rescue.
And that was for the Air Force?
It was for the for the Air Force, and it was for the reserves.
Yes.
Yeah. So most of my time was in the reserves in Portland, and I worked at Portland Community College during the day. One night a week, I'd go out and fly airplanes. It was a great existence.
We both just admire those that are in the Guard, National Guard and reserves.
We do.
Just because of that demand. I mean, you're working full time, and then, I mean, the equipment doesn't know that you're part-time, right?
No, you carry the same responsibility as anyone that'd be full-time. So you and I are involved with Employer Support Guard and Reserve, and we want to be here to support both businesses who have Guard and Reserve as employees, and especially support those Guard and Reservists who have to live a dual life. So I've done that. I'm very familiar with this and love to help.
So so you're working full time, you're flying, and you have your undergrad at this point?
You know, I actually had my master's.
Okay.
So again, I think one of
business?
MBA.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the deal is, and I'm a big proponent of education, so while in the Air Force, I worked on an MBA and completed it before getting off active duty and moving back to Portland.
Okay. All right. And then, so you flew for how long? How long were you in the reserves?
Well, it would be 6 years of active and probably 15 of reserve.
Total,
21 total.
Okay. So is that a retirement then?
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You've got to be kind of old to collect it, but it's not like a regular 20-year retirement.
Okay. And so then what did you do after that?
Well, this is the Idaho connection. So about 11 years ago, the College of Eastern Idaho was, College of Western Idaho, was formed in Boise. That was only the third community college in Idaho.
Okay.
I applied for and got a job as vice president of instruction. So Linda, my wife, and I moved to Boise 11 years ago and started a college from scratch, from nothing. It didn't exist, and created it. And
gosh,
it is a big institution right now in Boise.
Now, did you just you didn't have your PhD at that?
You know, I just was finishing my PhD at Oregon State.
All right.
When we did
Missed that. That's an important part of your...
You know, it is. And I think that would be one of a couple of things in a career that really changed my career. So a PhD for me in this line of work is a big deal.
Important.
And has opened up all kinds of doors.
Yeah. So you did it for the first time 11 years ago.
Yep.
And so then you want to do it again?
I did. So I kind of quasi-retired. I lasted 6 months. And it turned out that the president at Eastern Idaho Technical College had retired. I was asked by the state board for 1 year, be an interim for a year. So we moved here to Idaho Falls, and that was probably 5 years ago.
Yes.
And started working with the technical college, and technical colleges are very different than community colleges. Loved what we were doing, loved the community, and there was interest, and you were involved in this too, that the community understood the mission of a 2-year college, and it is hard to get a taxing district created in Idaho, but it was significant enough. It was May of 2017 was the vote. I'm pretty sure, I think that's right, 2017, and created a community college. That was the 4th in Idaho, an amazing feat, and have really enjoyed that opportunity.
And what impact have you seen so far?
It is economic development to begin with. Our connection with Idaho National Lab is significant. So there is all kinds of complex technical work being done out there, and a 2-year technician, those kinds of jobs are quite prevalent and important.
Needed.
Absolutely. And again, I think here, one of the things a community college would do, it would be to help with the go-on rate. So one of the important aspects of us is to get into high schools and help students who are interested and willing to get credit while they're in high school, and most of those credits would be transferred then to a university or a college. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And again, we're a community college is normally a college for first-generation students who don't think of themselves as college ready. Mom and dad didn't go. Maybe they didn't do well in high school, and now they're getting serious because they're done with high school and there are bills to pay, and there's a litany of reasons that students would come to us. That is 100% of it. So, so we're the least expensive tuition of the 8 institutions in Idaho.
Oh, wow,
and we love to be in that position.
Yes. Well, I'm a product of that too.
You and I talked about that.
Yeah.
So you've got an affinity for those kind of students, and look where it got you.
Yeah. Well, I cherish that background because if that didn't exist, I don't know. And also the instructors, I would say, the intimacy that you get to have with them, the contact you wouldn't normally have in a large university.
You wouldn't. No, we don't have any 150-seat lecture halls. We don't do that. So
and those instructors really take personal interest.
Right.
And so they really inspired me and made me pushed me outside of my current thinking to think of myself as doing more. So I think, gosh, if that hadn't happened, where would I be?
Well, that's important because you've got to think of yourself differently. So before I was a pilot, and you think about that first landing you make, you have to think that you're a pilot, or you wouldn't get in that seat.
That's right.
Without an instructor, and the same thing, being a bank president. you have to be able to see that and feel like you can do it.
That's right.
Before you are.
So
one.
did you always think that you were going to go have a PhD?
Never. No.
No?
It wouldn't. No, it didn't occur to me.
Why is that?
It just never occurred to me. But you're around people, and
Yeah.
and you are around people, and you
Sure.
encourage people to think of themselves in a different way. So until you think of yourself in a different way,
Yeah.
you can't go down those tracks in life. So
Yeah.
you do that. You mentor a lot of people. I do that, and
yeah.
I can see things in employees that they may not see in themselves. So
Yeah.
quite frankly, I think as we look at our employees right now, we probably have a couple of presidents in
Oh, wow.
in that group of employees. Certainly, we have vice presidents and
that's neat.
those who would be upcoming.
That's cool. So who was it that recognized that potential in you?
Well, you know, this is kind of ironic, but it really happened after I started the program. It just kind of made
Really?
sense. But I had a splendid professor, and he really had a strong feeling for community colleges, really understood what those things could do, and was a wonderful mentor. So, and you probably would agree with this. We all need mentors, and as I think back in my career, I wish I would have started that sooner. But there are people, you know, in your life, and even in the 8th grade, I guess I would say I had an 8th grade teacher who, you look at that kind of occupation, and I go, I think I would like to be into teaching, and and that happens all the time.
Wow, so you kind of got the bug early.
Got it early, but it takes a while. You ask about a PhD, and I, you know, thinking back on it, I'm not even. I hate to say this. There was no pivotal moment there. It just
You just did.
It seemed like now was a good time.
Yeah, the next logical step.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. How about the MBA? Was that the same way?
You know, it really was. And again, I'm a first generation college student.
You are?
Neither of my parents had really gone on to college.
Yeah.
But I saw the importance of it. So I was in the Air Force and knew that to move up either in the Air Force or in a civilian career, you needed to have a master's degree.
Yes.
And you probably agree, an MBA is kind of that vice grips of degrees.
Oh, I love it.
So it is so good. There's so many components that would work with it. It turned out that I did a lot of teaching because I had an MBA. And taught a lot of business classes.
It's so practical too.
It is. And then running an organization. That skill set and the finance and budget and all those kind of things are important components.
Yeah. So as you're progressing in your life, back there, I'm talking about when you were still with the reserves and and you're getting your MBA, and were there times in your life when it wasn't easy?
Sure. Everybody.
What was that
you can't be human. And
I know, but a lot of people don't talk about it, right?
Well, okay, so here is the thing, and you could probably appreciate that. Getting off of active duty. So I was a captain at that time and got off active duty. We took a chance and moved back to Portland, and I was able to get a reserve flying slot. But that is only a part-time job. And if you don't couch military experience correctly, it is hard to get a job. It is hard to get a civilian job. And I have got a stack of rejection letters an inch thick.
No kidding.
Oh, of course. It's really difficult to keep trying to get these jobs, and you're trying to see where you fit in, and just a ton of rejections because all my experience was in the military, and I wasn't wise enough to take that and convert it into a civilian language.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with that.
They do.
And then there's this perception that somehow military is tough and it doesn't relate well in the civilian world. It's it's not right, but it's a
it's a hierarchical kind of a perspective, and you're told what to do, and it couldn't be further from the truth, especially in aviation. I guarantee that whoever's in there in the back as a loadmaster, when they say something, you believe them, and you take the appropriate action. So everybody on a crew has responsibilities, and we respect that.
Yeah. So as you're going through those rejections, what do you dig down to? What gives you that strength for you personally?
It's just a matter of seeing what you could be. You've got to see beyond those rejections. So can you put that behind you? And every day is a new day. Mm-hmm. And you sometimes you take jobs you don't want to have, but you realize that that's a stepping stone into next. And if you do a good job in a menial task, then the people that work with you see that you do a good job and will move you into more and more complex responsibilities.
Yeah, that's right. Very good. So you spoke of your mentor.
Yeah.
And at what point in your life did that happen?
That happened while I was in Portland.
Okay.
And I had just begun the doctorate program.
Okay.
And when you're in education, it kind of makes sense to go into a doctorate.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
So I just started it. The opportunity presented itself. It was a great doctor. I really appreciated that. But this mentor really would sit down with me, ask the right questions, ask the hard questions. What is it you want to do?
Yeah.
I guarantee you, all the way through the doctorate, I would never, I said this multiple times, I will never be a college president.
No way.
Absolutely.
You did?
I said it all the time. We worked with a cohort. I would never do that. And the reason is you look at college presidents and it's a hard job. You get pulled in a whole variety of different ways. It doesn't look like you have much control. I always liked the vice president kinds of jobs because you're on the campus working with faculty, teaching and learning, and you're kind of limited to that campus. So having to go out into the community, ask for money, kiss babies, throw out baseballs, work with board members, work with had no appeal whatsoever at all, none, zero.
Wow. Well, and working with the board is no easy thing. I mean, different personalities, perspectives, and being able to.
Well, you work with the board too, so you understand that that's important. And
it is important.
And I would say we have a spectacular board for College of Eastern Idaho, and they're a brand new board. So so that's a good thing for me. And
so interesting you say that, not having that vision, that because you're so good at it. You're so natural in the community, and you're so passionate about the impact it has on the community. I mean, you can tell. It just exudes.
Well, I like that. So again, this is classic. I didn't see it in myself.
Yes.
Other people had to see it in me and kick me in the butt, right? So
that's cool.
So
I'm glad they did.
A good friend at the state board said, "Look, you are leading a worthless life in retirement. You have no purpose. You're wandering around fly fishing and what that. So just come for a year. It's a bait and switch. Come to Idaho Falls for a year, and you can go back to. There's good fly fishing on the east side. So just come and do it. We need to plug a hole for a little while, and then you can go back into retirement." And it turned out I had a skill set I didn't realize.
And then 5 years later,
I'm still doing it.
Here.
Yep.
Yeah. And people are being so touched by what you and your team are doing there.
Absolutely. And this is maybe a slight deviation, but I think you would agree with it. Hiring is the most important thing that I do. Mm-hmm. And if we hire the right kind of people that have the right passion and just let them do their job.
Yes.
I don't understand how people micromanage. I don't have a skill set for that. So
yes.
what I really do is try to cast a vision. Here's where we're going. If you have the right people on board, they will make that happen.
Yeah. So what is the quality when you're interviewing somebody? What's the number one thing you do?
Oh, that's simple.
I knew it would be.
Well, no, it's really easy. You look for a minimum skill set. So you've got to have this kind of a skill set to get an interview. And then it is personality. I can give anybody the skill set that they need to have. Do they need to understand how budgets work? Do they need to understand how credit for prior learning works? All those kind of things we can teach. I can't fix a crappy attitude. So I always hire for personality.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So I'll give you an example,
Yes.
and this isn't a faculty example. So when you have faculty come in, you have two kinds of people who interview for faculty. One will come in and they will talk about the discipline. They will talk about the importance, all the research they're doing,
Yes.
how important it is, all of the work, everything they talk about is the discipline. That isn't a good fit for a community college.
Right.
So what I look for is somebody who comes in and they talk about the discipline, but they talk about teaching and learning and being able to turn that light on and the things that they do in order to help a student learn. And that's a home run.
Oh, yes.
So sometimes you only have one position, but you've got two of these faculty who are extraordinary.
Oh.
So then you just wait till the time comes, or you make a position, you create a position because you want that attitude in your institution.
Yeah. So when you do that, what is the impact on the culture overall?
When I hire somebody who
So when you start adding people like this,
sure.
And then as a collective.
Okay, so you know the answer to this because I don't. And the question then becomes, is culture created or is culture discovered? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure you do.
No, you're the PhD.
Well, I don't know.
I
I wonder that every day, but you're right about a culture. So we try to hire people that we think will fit in our culture.
Yeah.
Our culture is to change lives. We want to take people who may not fit at a university, may have had a lot of adversity, may not have the money, all of those kind of things, and we want to move them into a successful job as quickly as we can, time to degree.
Yeah.
So we want to hear those kind of things in our employees. So that culture is we want to look at those students and do everything we can to help them become successful.
Yes.
And they have to demonstrate that they're successful. We don't cut corners in that, but we help them. Tutoring centers and those kind of things. But you've got to have that attitude that you're here for more than just a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. And I think as far as a leader, I think that's one of our jobs is to protect that culture. And
absolutely.
And I've had opportunities to bring really high producers in that maybe I knew would be hard on the culture, would be hard on the staff and the people,
right?
The team, and I got to say no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you're better off than now. We don't need any real single. How would we phrase it?
Like a rock star.
Right? We don't need a rock star. We need a team player. We need center fielders and those kind of things that will play their part. And we've done a good job with that, and I think that makes a difference. And as we start to be successful, we have a lot of people who want to work for the college, and that isn't the highest paying job that one could get, but it's fulfilling professionally to be able to work in that.
Oh yeah, to turn on those lights, sometimes for the first time in their lives, that they are inspired to learn and grow and see that hope in themselves to be more.
That's exactly right. So we try to bring students into our trustee meetings once a month.
Is that right?
And here's what I usually tell them. Your job is to tell your story, and I want 3 of the 5 trustees crying by the time you're done. If you can do that, it's a home run.
That's great.
No, it is, the stories, as you know, are touching.
Yes.
You know, and Bank of Idaho is supporting us with those scholarships. These are students who live hand to mouth. You know, some of them may be homeless. And,
yeah. Single mothers we've seen.
You know, it is
working
the
mothers. Stories
are wonderful.
Yeah.
That's why we exist.
It is. That's why I love partnering with you, and it just is so important now that that exists because of all the student loan debt that's out there.
Right.
I mean, I think now more important than any time to have a community college in this community.
Well, here's something that we talk about as our team. So especially with high school students, juniors and seniors, we really try to encourage them to get 15 to 30 dual credits before they come to us. We'll take them for a year, and again, at 129 a credit, it's not hugely expensive. And what we would like to do then is turn over a junior to ISU, BSU, BYUI, University of Idaho, turn a junior over that has all of the credits, all of the electives that they need in their discipline with no debt or minimal debt. So they'll be sitting in a class, 150-seat auditorium as a junior, and on one side they'll have a junior already at that university that's got $40,000 in debt.
Yes.
And the student would have very little.
That's
so we really attempt to do that.
So how many have you turned out so far with associate degrees?
Well, just starting, I think we had about 150 graduate last year. But remember, it takes 2 years to get that.
Right, and you started in May 17, right?
Yeah. So we are just starting to get into that production mode. We've got probably about 2,000 credit students now. iTech had 700.
Wow.
So
2,000.
we've almost tripled. I would think the water level for us here is probably 7,000 students.
Really?
That would be about right for Idaho Falls in the region, Bonneville County.
Wow.
So we'll grow to about that size.
Yeah. So what's next? What's your vision going forward? What can we look for?
For the college?
Yeah, and for you.
For the college, we need an energy and technology building. Thanks for asking, Jeff.
See,
that is really important. Now, so here's something you may not realize, but there are, I think, maybe 16 national labs in this country.
Yes.
Of which there are probably 10 that would have a community college in close proximity, the way we are. So we're in an elite location. This is an awesome location.
Yes.
And when you look at the mission of Idaho National Lab, it is it's an energy mission. It is a nuclear energy mission, so carbon-free mission. It is dealing with cybersecurity. That's an area that you're interested in, that we have just opened up. Information technology, software, nuclear cleanup, that kind of thing. So the mission is a spectacular mission. And again, our relationship with the lab is so great that we can turn out family wage jobs. Our students can go right into a family wage job that makes a big difference for the economy, for this idea of clean energy. And we're looking at solar, and had a great discussion about batteries. Electric vehicles are important. All of those things are things that the college can do, but we don't have the facilities for it.
So we're going to need to raise money for a facility?
I think that would be a good thing to do.
Right.
So
that's great.
As we get a little bit further along, we're working on a planning grant that would let us actually create the building and have the specs for it, and then we'll go out to the community and see if there's interest in that.
And timing on that is when? When are you going to come out to the community, you figure?
I don't know. It depends on how long a planning grant would take. I think we're going to know by March if we have it.
Okay.
It would take about 6 months to at least get a good idea for that. For sure, I would say next year about this time, we would be at the place where we can find the kind of partners. And this is a place where business partners become
good.
Really important for us.
Good. I'll look forward to being one of those.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Rick, especially for your friendship and also for what you do for this community and the impact that you're having on lives.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, thank you for the invitation. This has been wonderful.
Yes, thank
Good
you.
Conversation as always.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to Community Connections with Jeff Newgard, where every episode you hear unique stories of your neighbors, colleagues, friends, and community connections. You can find our podcasts on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and other popular platforms. Subscribe to our channel to keep up to date on all future conversations. Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.